today's video, we'll look at creating a pellet smoker in Blender. But before we get started, let's look at this quick commercial and then we'll come right back. Alright, now that we're back, let's go ahead and delete the logo here. I want to come in and I want to create a plane. I'm going to rotate it on X by 90 degrees. Going to size it down, and what I'm doing is I'm creating the base of the smoker. So like that front panel. If you actually want to see the smoker I based this model off of, I did make some small changes, but it is a Pit Boss brand Brunswick Platinum smoker. It's a vertical smoker, pellet smoker, and essentially this is what we're creating. I've always thought that the look of that thing was pretty awesome, so wanted to do my own version of it here. So now what I'm doing is I'm creating the little sections down in the front where the feet are, so I'm just extruding down. I'm going to delete this face here, and we have something like a stylized M shape. And now what I need to do is grab these verts here and just kind of scale them out from each other to give it a little bit of separation here. I'm going to take my time a little bit more in this video. I mean, everything I'm doing is pretty straightforward and pretty simple, but I want to show you guys. You guys will see a little bit more of how the sauce is made in this one. Not too much. I am going to cut some things, so it's just not too long. But what I want to do here is I want to grab these edges, and essentially what I'm going to do is extrude these out. And then since the top part and the bottom part are skewed from one another, I want them aligned. I'm going to come in here, scale them out, get them lined up. I'm going to grab these two here, these two verts here, and I want to bring them in. Because I'm basically creating the main shape of that smoker, if that makes sense. And I'm just trying to eyeball on the shape of it at the moment. All right. That looks pretty good. Looks like the real thing. Now I'm going to grab these edges and these edges. And I'm going to do bridge edge loops. And then I have a closed off piece of geometry here, which essentially is the shape of that base. Alright, so I'm adding some loop cuts in here now, because what I want to do from here is I want to like kind of segment off the little pieces that made up the legs where the wheels are connected to. So now I have that shape here. I'm bringing in another loop cut here in the front and in the back, because I want this to be symmetric. So the best way to do that is to delete one side of it and then just run a mirror modifier to duplicate the other side, so I always know that it's the same. We could also use symmetrize, but symmetrize doesn't update, and there are going to be some things that I do here that update it. As you see, I use my mirror modifier. Now, for those of you who are new to my videos here, who may be watching this one for the first time, you may have said, how do I get my mirror modifier to look like that? That is a tool called Machine Tools that I use as a plugin. It just makes things quicker. You literally can do this with the modifier tab in Blender and literally do the same thing. It's just a menu-driven system. For me is a lot faster. And those of you who have been here for a while, you've seen me use this before, and I've explained this before. So that's that. So Now that we've done that, I want to come in here. I'm going to run a solidify modifier on it to give this some thickness. Now we've pretty much got that base plate done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and select some faces along essentially the legs of the smoker. And then I'm just going to put some insets here, and I'm basically making like some little bevel cuts. It's an aesthetic thing. So extrude faces along normals. I'm going to suck it in like so. If you notice on this one, I'm not doing a whole lot of beveling and that sort of thing, because this is a pretty rigid hard surface model. So I really don't even need to do a lot of sub D. You'll see I'll use it certain places, and a lot of places on this model I'm just not even going to use it. It's kind of unnecessary. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to line up those little bevel cuts. I'm totally eyeballing this, and then I'm just going to make it, and because we use a mirror modifier, it's going to update it and duplicate this on the other side as well. So just kind of keep that in mind, and you'll see it here if you look on the right hand side, that other one, as I scale this in, and then I come in here and I'm just kind of sizing it up, but then when I come back in here to do my extrude along normals to do my bevel cut, you'll see it's going to update that leg on the far right side, the one that's kind of faded out a little bit. See it? So that's the benefit of mirror modifier. All right, so that's done. So now I selected some edges up here, duplicated it, and from here I'm creating the chamber of the smoker based upon that top part of that shape of that base. So now I'm going to come in and select all the verts, and I want to extrude it straight up. It just saves me from bringing the cube in and having to like eyeball it and get that cut down there just right and the same size and all this. This is just quicker. So I'm adding in some geometry by putting a bunch of loop cuts in here. Just create some nicely distributed quads. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but that wasn't what I was shooting for in this video. You have seen other videos I've done where like the topology had to be clean and that sort of thing. That was because I was trying to focus you all on topology. This one is quads. It doesn't have to be the prettiest thing. I really don't care in this one. I just want to show you guys how to model this thing out. And by the way, I'm modeling this in real time. I didn't create a version of this beforehand. I just took a shot at it and recorded it. So right now what we're doing is we're creating the top part of the smoker. This is the part where the control unit is, the smokestack, and there's like a little housing compartment up there where you can keep your probes and your thermometers and that sort of thing. So that's what we're sculpting out now. Okay. Pretty simple shape. I mean, it's just got a chamfered edge right there. Now I am going to run some bevels on this one because I'm contemplating running sub D on this part. And reason why I'm putting the loop cuts in here like I am now, there's like the little control board is over there on the left hand side, and I'm just allocating out loop cuts that are roughly the width of that control board, which is going to give me some boundaries to work with when I start doing my thing and trying to make that board where you can actually see it. And if you notice, my loop cuts are not going all the way through. That's because if you look at the side of it, we got a big N-gon there, which is fine. We can go in with the knife tool or command or control J later on and tie those verts in. Right now I don't really care about that, so that's why you're not seeing me address it. So I selected some faces, extruded them up on the normals to bring out this shape here. And that's the shape where the cabinet is. Now there's an inner part of this, like you see me selecting now, that will actually be the control board. It has like a digital readout on it and a knob and all this kind of cool stuff where you can actually see what's going on with the smoker. Temperature, probe temperatures. You can see when the fan is running, when the igniter is running, that sort of things. All digital. It's pretty awesome smoker. What I will not do in this video is create the artwork for the digital readout. If you guys want to see me do that, just leave it in the comments and I'll make an addendum to this video and show just that. But for the sake of just modeling this thing out, I just decided to omit it because it would have made the video way too long, which I think this video is going to be probably a bit long anyway. All right, so now what I'm doing is creating I'm bringing in a cylinder, and this cylinder is going to be the dial knob where you push the knob down and you turn it to to, well, you turn it to change the temperature that you want the smoker to go to, and then you click the button down or inward to confirm it. It's like an enter button, if you will. That's what we're making now, is that knob. And I'm just eyeballing this. I'm literally just trying to straighten it up on that surface. Now, Blender has a version, or a feature I should say, where you can create an object and you can basically, you know, click it to another object and it'll drag it across the surface. I didn't do that here. It was just quicker for me because it was just a flat cylinder connect to a flat surface. I just eyeballed it. So now I'm just going in here, make sure it's all quad solution. Put in grid fill. Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to give it a nice beveled edge, rounded bevel edge. Just kind of mimic the shape of that button. So now, because I am going to sub D this button, I need to tighten up the geo. So I'm putting a nice little beveled edge here, so that when sub D gets applied to it, it doesn't go all crazy on me. And then just like on the top surface of the button on the back side, I'm also putting in a lot of geometry. I'm gonna blow out those faces there in the end. I'm gonna select this edge around here, and then I'm gonna fill it with a grid fill, which is gonna be all quad solution. Just keeps it clean. I mean, when you run sub D, it just stops any crazy issues you might have. And it's just clean topology. So now I run level 2 sub D, shade smooth, done. We're done with the knob in terms of modeling. And if you notice here, so far, I've stuck with pretty basic primitives to build this out. So I'm selecting a vert. I'm gonna move my cursor to the vert. That's where it's gonna drop the new primitive in. I go back out to object mode, bring in a plane, go to edit mode, scale it down. This is gonna be the plate that basically bolts onto the top of the smoker, and the chimney stack comes out of this little plate here. So what you're seeing right now is me making a plate. It's just a plane with solidify on it. But I need to give it some geo. I select the vert in there, do the same thing with the cursor, I turn that to a circle. Through loop tools, go in there and select these faces. You see I got X-ray mode that's on. That's one of my plugins that's turning X-ray mode on automatically now for some reason. I gotta figure out how to cut that out because it's a bit annoying. But now I'm making this circle bigger, and from here I can extrude it up and make the chimney stack. This is where the smoke comes from the chamber and exits the smoke out from the top. And there's like a little dampener or something on top of it we'll make here in a second. So now I'm using machine tools, and I'm just doing the solidify quicker that way. For me, it's just quicker. It's the same plugin though. I mean, it's the same, excuse me, I should say it's the same modifier as it is in vanilla Blender. I'm putting in some loop cuts to basically support the shape when we run sub D on it. I want to go in here, I don't really need to, but I think in terms of lighting, I want to go ahead and pop out the top here where it's like actually a hole up here at the top. You'll see I'll do that here in a second, like so. But I'm not making the screw and all of that that sits in here. I'm creating another cylinder here because this is going to be like the little dampener at the top. And that thing regulates the amount of temperature that can stay in the smoker. So if you screw this little top piece down closer to that stack, it retains more heat because less heat can escape out of the top of the smoker. However, if you crank it all the way up, your smoker releases more heat out of the top of it, if that makes sense. That's what we're building here. So I'm just kind of sizing this up. Now in the real world, there's a screw that, and like a little bracket on the bottom of this thing that basically screws into the top of that stack, but you're never gonna see it in this model. And I've said this many times in videos, why don't make anything you don't need to make, because it's adding bulk to your geometry and the computer will try to render it, regardless if it doesn't see it or not. So if it's never gonna see it because it's in a really shadowy area, just don't even make it. All right. So now I'm in X-ray mode. I'm just making sure that when I extrude this up, I don't pop out of the top of that thing. And then I'm gonna do my little bevel action here. Notice I put a much fatter bevel here because it needs to round off a little bit more. And just like before, I'm just going to put in some insets here for a nice geo, blow out the face, select the edge, and grid fill it. Like that. And I'm going to put some port loop cuts here on the side. It just makes sub D much happier. Okay, level 2 and shade smooth done. Alright. So now we got all that done. So what I want to do right now is where this little cabinet piece here is I want to create a handle. There's a little handle there. So I come in, go into curves, create a single vertices. I'm moving my vert over to roughly where I want it. I'm looking from the top down at the top of the smoker. And I put that little single vert there, and I'm going to extrude it out. And the reason why I'm doing a curve because it gives me the ability to make easier tweaks to it if it doesn't come out like I want it to. But it's going to come out like we want it to. You know why? Because we've done this a few times. Alright. So I'm just basically creating a basic shape here. Remember, I said build your building blocks first, and then you tweak it and pimp it out later. So now I'm going into the curve setting, and I'll need to give this some geometry. So I'm going under bevel and under round and depth. I'm just creating the depths, and you see that adds some chunkiness to it. So now it looks like it's not a mesh, it's still a curve, but we're gonna do curved stuff to it, and then we're gonna convert it. So now I'm putting in a bevel here. And if you see this cool little menu here, this is another plugin I use to make bevels on curves very quickly. I think it's a curve machine. It's part of that whole machine tool suite. I have mesh machine, curve machine, and box cutter. I think those are the three that I use quite often. I don't use box cutter as much anymore, but curve machine and mesh and machine tools I definitely use a lot. I actually use mesh machine quite a bit too. But anyway, you can see I put the bevels in there. It's nice and easy, nice little menu. I wish the vanilla blender would adopt that because it's a lot easier to see it. So I'm gonna do a level 2 shade smooth. It's still a curve though. For now, I will convert it. You will see me convert it, and with another one because we're gonna make 3 of these. So now I'm coming to the back of that platform, and I'm just gonna select some faces here and delete them because the real one, it has a big cutout right there. I'm doing the inset before I cut it. Just protects the geometry around it. Oh, you know what? On second thought, that's a bevel cut on the side. I told you guys wrong. That was not the back. That was the side of it. So that was just a bevel cut. I was just putting in some styling there. That's on the real thing. So this right here is the door that connects to the hopper. The hopper is where the wood chips go that you put into the smoker, the fuel, if you will. So what you see me here is you see me making that. And now I went back in, created a duplicate of that handle, and I went back, flipped it around, changed the origin so it flips properly, and now I'm putting it on the back. So this is a handle that opens up the door to the hopper. This is, you'd grab that handle, pick up on it, that whole little bracket piece back there comes up, and then in there is like a little mesh area, and then you pour your pellets in there, and it fills inside the smoker. So this is the handle for that. And since that handle was roughly the same size as that other one, I just made a duplicate and shot it around the back like that. So now we got one more to do, but the next one we got to do is a much bigger one. So I'm looking at it from ortho back. I'm going in here under curve. I'm going to create my single poly curve again. It's basically, you look at this as like a curve vertices, if you will. And I'm just kind of getting it into place of where I want it. Because I'm imagining it in my head, like how wide is this handle going to be from the back? Now I'm coming in the top ortho so I can actually like model it. So all I'm doing is an extrusion. Extrusion on X. First I did extrusion on Y, then extrusion on X, then I'm gonna come back to extrusion on Y again. That way it's not bent and all over the place. I'm just constricting it to the axes. And this is why I like to work in ortho, because ortho can guarantee your stuff straight. Now, just like before, I'm coming under the bevel settings, under the curve settings, and adding some depth. And I'm gonna do the whole bevel trick here on these curves so they're nice and clean. And if you notice, I take the segments down to 2 segments, which will look like 3 vertices there. And then I'm just kind of, where it says amount, that's just the amount of scaling I'm doing there for them. And I'm just gonna match the other side to it, so it has the same amount of bend as the other one. And you'll see I take the segments down to the same amount as the first one too. I could have cut this thing in half and mirror modified it, but it's just more work than it was worth. Alright, so now I'm gonna change the origin to the geometry so I can rotate it and such, no problem. So just, you saw I flipped it around 180 degrees. Now I'm gonna move it to the back of the smoker, like that. And now I just need to tuck it up so it looks like it's coming out from the smoker. So I'm just lining it up. And as you see, one side is not as long as the other one, so because it's a curve, I can go back in there and fix it. So I can select these two, and then I can scale them on the y-axis, set it to 0, and they're in the same position. Or in other words, they'll be the same length from each other. And now I can just go ahead and move this into place. I just need to look for it to look like it's coming out of the smoker. So now I'm going to convert it to a mesh. Boom, and that's how you do it. Just a right click and it's a menu option. I'm gonna do a level 2 and a shade smooth, and we are done with that. And I gave it a little bit of rotation so it looks a little bit more realistic. It's a slight rotation. Now I'm coming in here and creating a UV sphere, because what I want to do is I want to create the shapes for the little vents on the side of the smoker. There's these little vents over there that I really don't know what they're for. I don't think they're exhaust vents, but maybe they are. Maybe it's for the side. I don't really know what they're for, but they're there. So for me, I'm just visually creating it. I'm not putting too much work in it though, because it's a very small visual aesthetic to the model that doesn't add a ton of value, but you know, don't boil the ocean over making this. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're doing this for, say, like a company, and you need a high detail model, then by all means make it the right way, because I would have never made it this way had it been paid work. But for our YouTube video, this is more than enough. This will get you 90% there. All right. So basically, I'm creating a peel shape, and I cut the bottom of it off. So I filleted the bottom of it off, and then I filleted the back of it off. So it's a quarter peel essentially. So these one's just like slightly longer than the other. And there are like 4 of them on the smoker. So I'm just making one longer, like each new one I make is just a little bit longer than the first one, because they kind of come down in a tiered orientation like that. And if you notice, the backs of them are aligned. That's why I kept one, every time I make a duplicate and drag one down, I'm dragging it down on the Z axis so I make sure it's straight. And if you notice, I'm in ortho mode when I do this. Now I'm just bringing all these together. I just stick them inside the model like so, because when we put the same textures on these later, it'll look like it's carved out of the same piece. So I'm shade smoothing these, and you notice there should be some holes there, so we're going to address that here in a second. It's a ratchet ghetto solution, but like I said, it ain't adding a lot of value, and I did not want to waste too much time on it. So my solution to putting the what looks like some holes there is I created a cube, go to edit mode, scale it down big time, scale it down a lot, and I'm gonna use it as a cutter, and we're gonna use a Boolean operation on this. It's ghetto, I know, but hey, it worked. So we gonna do it. It works for YouTube, man. I don't suggest you do this professionally this way, but if you're trying to create just a quick little model, like it's totally doable. I almost didn't do this. I almost was like, they're gonna think I don't know what I'm doing, or they're gonna laugh at it, think that I'm just teaching you bad habits. But this is just me being lazy. Just be honest. See, it worked though. Is it pretty? Is it the prettiest thing ever? No, but you're not gonna see it. But if the reason why I did it is in the case that lighting hits that thing just at the right place, and you can see that there's something there. There's a little bit more depth, a little bit more intricacy to the model. That's why I did it. But 9 times out of 10, you're not even going to see that those vents are going to hide everything. You're not even going to see there's a cut or hole there at all. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm duplicating this cube all the way down, and I'm just adjusting it wherever I need to. Just make these cuts. And if you notice, I'm getting the bottom of the cut almost flush with the bottom of the vent. And then I just got to go in here, edit mode, and scale them out. I know this is like watching paint dry, but I didn't want to cut it in case some of you were like interested in doing this. Like I said, most of my videos here, for now, are catered for beginners in Blender or people who have been using Blender for a while, and the videos get more complex as we continue down this journey. So we're at 44 videos, I believe now, including shorts. So they're getting more the models are getting more complex. However, I'm not to the point yet where I'm wanting to show you guys more advanced ways of solutioning things. Not quite yet, but we're getting there. I'm still catering these for you beginners too, that just know the basics of how to use Blender. If you don't know how to use Blender at all, you might not want to spend too much time on these videos, because it assumes that you know some things, right? So I'm showing you like some quick and dirty techniques to do some things, and also trying not to over explain it. So I'm using my booleans here, and all of these booleans are selected to that top part of the chamber. That's where all these modifiers are. So now I want to add a solidifier modifier to those vents, just to give them a little bit of depth. Not going crazy with it. Like I said, this is not adding a ton of value to the model. It's just a little bit extra aesthetic to give it a little bit more realism. As you can see right here. Notice, you're not gonna see those holes, but if you get that camera down like below it a little bit and it angles up, you might see that there's something there. Keep in mind, guys, you probably don't know this, but the top of that smoker is gonna be black too. So a black top with some shine on it, because it's gonna be metallic, and a black hole where there's a shadow there. You're just gonna, best case scenario, you're gonna see that there's something shiny there and something ain't shiny there, and it's gonna give you the illusion that there's that hole there. So that's why we didn't need to go too crazy with modeling the hole. That's my rationale for it anyway. All right, so we put all of those cubes that we use there under a cutter collection, and now I'm going in here, before we get too crazy with this model, I'm going in here and naming these mesh pieces here so we know what's what. And then I'm gonna go in and start doing the parenting. And the reason why I'm hesitating a little bit on what I'm naming stuff is because I'm literally trying to name this stuff on the fly. And I've said this in other videos before, so I'll reiterate it here on this one. A lot of YouTubers, and nothing against them, I'm not saying anything negative about it, but a lot of YouTubers will make their models numbered times before they record the video, just to make sure that they don't have screw ups. And I think that's great, because if you're trying to just get through the model without the screw ups, I think that's perfect. You get the polished product, right? My video is a little bit different. I want to show you the screw ups, because I want to give you what I feel like is a more realistic take on what it is to be a 3D modeler. You're not going to get this stuff perfect every time. Some things you do like a million times, yeah, you don't screw that up. But when you're trying to make something you haven't ever made before, you're going to have screw ups. You're going to see where it goes a little bit slower because you're constantly trying to problem solve stuff. This is what I want to get through to you guys who watch these videos. Nobody does this polished product every time. It doesn't happen. Even sometimes the software gets squirrely. I've had Blender do some squirrely stuff with me lately, like this latest 4.4.3 version. And it may have been my machine. I just reboot the Mac, and then it's like it clears itself up. So I don't know what it was. It was, and Blender was only software affected by it. But anyway, enough for that side talk. So I'm doing the parenting now, and you guys know what that is by now. So basically, I'm gluing all the little parts together, like a parent-child relation, if you will. So if I go and move the main parent, like all the little kitties come along with it. So in other words, if you're looking at this smoker, if I grab the chamber, then the base goes along with it, the knob goes along with it, the handles go along with it, those vents go along, so on and so forth. So we don't lose track of stuff. Otherwise, in 3D, every little piece will just stay in its own space. So that's why we want to parent this stuff. So like I said, this is going to be a little bit longer video because I'm actually showing you the minutia of it all. I am cutting out some things, but I'm cutting out less stuff in this video because I just want you guys to see like the work that goes into, you know, after you model it, you're not done. You still have to clean stuff up. You have to name things. You gotta, you know, go back in and maybe make some little changes to some things and that sort of thing. So right now what I'm doing, there's like a little box. It's called a firebox that is up under the smoker. There's igniter in there. And when your pellets drop in with the like little mechanism, the few little pellets, like a small handful of pellets will drop down. There's like a little igniter that lights up and a fan up under there. And the fan blows the air, which fuels the fire, and the igniter gets cherry red hot, and it will ignite the pellets, which are essentially compressed sawdust. And then these things will combust and catch on fire, and then they give off smoke. They give off the smoke because the fan will blow them and basically blow the fire down, and it gives the smoke for the chamber, and it produces the heat to cook the food. So I'm literally making a cube and adding a loop cut in it, and then I'm going to extrude out the top part of the cuts on normals to give the basic look of this little box. You will never see this box. I just, for whatever reason, wanted it there because if I ever had a camera that shot it from a back angle, and when you see that open cut there, I want to see that there's something there. And if you'll notice in this video that I make here, I don't even put a material on it, which I should have. I just forgot to, but it should have been black, but you'll see I forget even to put a texture on it because you're just not going to see it. So this is one of those examples where you really don't want to waste your time modeling something that is not adding any benefit really to your model, other than that one shot there in the back where that back of that base is open. You might see that there's something there. And it doesn't need to be super detailed because it's going to be in a bunch of shadowy area anyway, because all that stuff's going to be black. All right. So I'm going to give that a name, Model Firebox, and it's in the same collection, model.smoker. All that's good, and save the file out, and then I do the whole parenting thing, make sure it's all glued together. And as you can see, the model's coming along pretty good. But we still got a lot to do. All right, I'm just kind of looking it over. So now I'm going to come in here, and I want to create a cube. I'm going to scale it down. Bring it out, and what we're doing is we're creating like this little door. So on this smoker, there's a little door on the front. You pull it with your hand out, and your spent or your burned pellet residue, if you will. It's not really a residue. It's like ash. It's like an ashtray is essentially what it is. It's a long thing that pulls out of there that your ashes from your spent fuel or your spent pellets are in, and then you can dump it once you're done doing a cook. I'm not going to create the long tray. I just want to create the door for it because I'll never show this. And I'm not putting a lot of time in modeling this out, as you'll see, because when you see the final model, I'm going to give it a slightly different texture, but you're really not going to notice it because it's never meant to be the focal point of the model. It's basic shapes, and it keeps my model lightweight. It keeps it small. It makes it render faster, and that sort of thing. I did want to show this to you though, because there's some things here. I running a sub D on this, and if you notice, I've got a bevel cut inside of sub D with sharp edges, and if you notice the sharp edges are retained, that's because there's a trick to doing that. If you want to see that trick, I've got a YouTube short that I created where it talks about doing I think it's like making clean sub D on beveled edges or something. It's like one of the first short videos I did. It's probably one of my best shorts I've done. Seems like that was a problem a lot of people were trying to figure out, but I've got a solution for it, so I'll show it in that video. All right, so now what we're doing is we're coming in here, we're getting ready to create the wheels for the smoker. So I'm bringing in a plane, scaling it down with extrude, because this is going to be the platform for which the wheels sit on. I just need to move all of this into place. And yet again, if you notice, I'm in ortho, so I can verify that everything is straight. So now I need to get some loop cuts so we can sculpt some other pieces out from this. And I fast forward a little bit so you can kind of see what I've come up with. Now I'm bringing in a cylinder, and this is going to be one of the wheels. We only need to make this one time. So I'm gonna rotate it on Y, bring it down, and then I'm just gonna play with the sizing of it till I get it to where I think it looks kind of nice. And it's just a matter of just scaling it, positioning it, and I'm going to go ahead and do like my little beveled edges here, so because I'm definitely running sub D on this. And then just like you saw before, I need to go in and do my insets, blow out the center or delete the center, and then grid fill it. And I think I ended up not grid filling this one just because I was just being lazy on the wheel. It's not going to change anything. It's just a big ingon. It's a flat surface, so ingon on a flat surface is permissible. You don't get weird effects. However, it's not good practice. You're better off just doing a grid fill and making sure you got an all quad solution if you want to be serious about modeling. However, in this video, this one's taking me like about a day and a half to actually model off and on other stuff. I'm being honest with you, I was just being lazy, which you won't see me do too often, but I definitely did it in this one. So, with that being said, after calling myself out like that, I'm going to bring this down to where this piece here is a little bit more centered. Because what I want to do is I want to bring a pole off of this that just mimics or looks like it's going into that wheel. So I'm adding more loop cuts in here so I can select a piece of this, turn it to a circle, and extrude it in there. I'm kind of looking around to see where I want to start it. So I decided to go in the bottom because that's going to line it up a little bit better. So see, if you run the inset before doing the shape, the inset actually protects the surrounding geometry. So that's why doing that inset before you make that shape change is so important. Think about that inset as like a barrier, if you will. It's like putting a fence around it where like your change that you're making to that geometry doesn't affect the outside geometry. It doesn't make it go all crazy looking. All right, so now I've got that in there. I'm just kind of tucking that wheel up a little bit. And I did some loop cuts on the circle that came, or the cylinder shape that came out from that wheel piece right there. just to reinforce that when I got my sub D on there, as you can see that we have. And now what I want to do is I'm going to create an array, and I'm going to duplicate it after I mirrored it. So I mirrored it first. So I put one on the other side. Now I'm going to run an array, and then I'm going to make a total of 4. So I go to side ortho so I can line it up. And I just play with the factor for Y. I'm just going to do a relative offset, and that ought to be good enough. So now we got wheels. Now granted, this version, the wheel's a little bit big. I went back in later offline and scaled them down to look more like the real wheels, like you see here. So they're a little bit smaller now. But I didn't feel like going through all that, showing you guys all of that headache. So now what we want to do is I want to sculpt out from here the part that goes over the top of the wheel and then connects to the other side of it. So because we got all this nice geometry right here, I'm just selecting some faces. I'm going to extrude them out on X because it was trying to do the local normal. I'm going to bring it all the way out as far as I want to go, and then I'm going to bring in a support loop, and you're going to see I'm going to scale it towards the edge, and it's just going to push all of that whole mesh up to where it tightens it up a little bit. And because we got some nice cuts here, now I can grab these guys here on the bottom, these bottom faces, and extrude it downward, like you're going to see me do here. As soon as I can get my camera oriented here, my viewport oriented. So watch, now I bring it down, and it doesn't look good at all. It looks like a droopy mess, right? But that's why we have loop cuts and bevels. We can tighten it up, not a problem. So in order for me to work with it, I just disabled subdivision in the viewport, and that lets me look at the raw geometry. So now I'm going to kind of come in here and clean this up. I want to bring this back on X a little bit, like so. And I'm just kind of looking. Now the way you handle that droopy part on that corner is that you can either run a crease there or you can run a bevel cut there, and then you go on the other side and add a lot of geometry loop cuts in there, and it tightens it up just like you see here. Now if you look back at the wheels, I've got sub D turned back on and it's nice and clean. Now what I want to do is come in here in the chamber, because my objective here is to carve out part of the front here that I'm going to make the French doors out of. I'm not going to ever have them where they open and close. That would be a more detailed model to do that. I would have taken a lot more time with the doors if I were to do that, but in this case I'm not doing that, so it's all good. So I just want to select these faces here that basically make up the shape of those doors, and I'm just making sure I got all the faces I need, and then I'm going to then duplicate that, make a new selection out of the duplication, which then makes a new mesh, as you see in the outliner. And then I'm gonna go back into the original, select that same selection, and delete it. And that's gonna open up that part of the chamber. And since this is on a mirror modifier, it's gonna open up the other side as well. So right now, what I'm coming in and doing is I'm selecting faces to make the window for that front of that door. And I'm gonna do literally the same trick. I'm gonna inset, then from this inset, I'm gonna bring it in a little bit, extrude along normals. Then I'm gonna inset it again, extrude along normals a little bit. And then I'm gonna take that selection that's left, that's gonna be where the glass is. I'm going to duplicate it, separate it out as a new selection, which makes a new mesh, and that's gonna be just specifically for the glass. Then I'm gonna go back in the original. Then I'm gonna go back in the original, take that same selection, and I'm going to delete where the glass was, so that when we run the texture on it, you'll be able to see through it like you can see inside the chamber. That was a trick there. I didn't show it all, but that's what I did. It's very simple. All right, so now I'm bringing in a new cylinder primitive here, and I'm basically creating hinges. I'm only doing cylinders. I'm not getting super detailed hinges because they're gonna be black against a black metal background. You're not gonna see the detail. I just want there to be an illusion that there is something there. And essentially what I did was I sub-D'd them, and then I created an array modifier. I just duplicated one of the array modifier. And because I got my 3 on this side, now I can mirror them to the other side. So there'll be hinges on the other side for that other door. Okay. And then I'm going to use one of the shapes of the smoker to be like the center point, and it's going to mirror around that object. I used the base because it was the widest thing, and bam, it put them right where I wanted them. Done. All right. So that's done. So now if we look at the model is coming along very, very well. So now what I'm doing is I'm selecting some faces here on the back, because there's this little glass there where you can see how much, the amount of pellets you have left in your hopper. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating that section where that glass is. Just like we did on the doors in the front, I am literally using the same technique here. I'm just moving that selection down, scaling it in a little bit on the y-axis, make it a little bit thinner. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a duplicate after I get it all styled up like I want it. And I'm gonna take that duplicate, I'm gonna put it in its own selection. I'm gonna separate the selection, which creates a new mesh. Then I'm gonna go back in the original, delete those faces, which makes a hole. And then I'll turn back on my new mesh selection, which essentially will make it look like there's something there. And then that way I can style it, give it a glass look, and that's the glass. I mean, that's how you do it. All right, so now I'm in front ortho, and the next thing to make is to bring in a circle, because I'm going to create the door handles for the French doors on the front of the smoker. There's like a little round circle there. It's got like a little decorative piece on the end. And I'm doing a bunch of insets in a grid fill. And then I need to get it close to the surface. I'm extruding it out, give it some depth. And on Y, I'm bringing it in, and I'm gonna stick it to the surface of the smoker. Now granted, like I said before, earlier in the video, we could have used I forgot what they call it in Blender. I rarely ever use it. I probably should use it more, but there's a way of like hitting B when you're moving. And so like if you hit G to move something and you hit B, you're near another surface, it'll stick it to the surface. I probably should have used that, but I didn't have to because I'm dealing with 2 flat surfaces. So I can just eyeball it, and it's super, super easy. Now, if you got a curved surface, you'll want to use that trick. Like I said, I rarely ever use it. I mean, I started using Blender before that feature existed, so I just never really adopted it. So maybe I'll do a video where I use it really heavily just to show you guys, and that get me using it more too. But anyway, I'm doing bevel cuts and all that good stuff for this shape. And I need to be able to grab the bottom, which I can't do right now, so I isolate it. So I can grab that bottom and do like a really tight bevel here, because that's gonna keep it sharp when we run sub D. So now I run sub D, and I can look at it and see what it looks like. And then what I need to do is I need to go back in there in that little intersection here, that edge right there, in the end right there. I need to go back in there and tighten it up just a little bit. And then turn sub D back on, and you'll see the difference. See the difference? So those bevels make sub D work all day long. Right? It's pretty nice. All right, so now what I need to do here is I need to go in and select some faces. So I hit Control plus to increase my selection, and then from here I'm gonna bring the handle out. So now I've got the faces selected, and from here I can extrude these out, and that's where my handle comes from. I'm gonna bring the handle out as far as I want. Then I'm gonna bring in a loop cut, which is gonna operate like a fence, if you will. It'll keep my selection from going outside the boundaries of it. And I'm gonna select some of these faces down here at the bottom, because what I wanna do with these guys here is I wanna bring this selection downward, and that's gonna be the down sloping handle for the French doors. And you turn them, you like rotate them to open the door. And I do my little trick, scale them so the faces are flat. And now I can bring this further down. I can drag it down with G, and like it's got that droopy look again, just like we saw when we were making the wheel. We're gonna do a similar technique to clean it up. So I'm just scaling this out because the bottom of that handle kind of flares out a little bit on both X and on both X and Y. And now I'm gonna run support loop cuts here to tighten it up, just like you see here. And because I don't want all those long faces, I want a bunch of loop cuts here. And I'm just running support loops in here, so I got good geometry. There you go. There's your handle. And I only had to make it once. So now we're gonna grab that handle. I'm increasing the level of subdivision, add shade smooth. Just clean it up, make it a little bit cleaner. Give it a name. Yeah, it's looking good. And I'm giving the screws there at the top where that top door is. I'm giving those a name while I'm in here. Like I said, I'm naming this stuff literally as I'm building this out, so. So I'm going back to the deal with the handle. I'm going to parent it to the doors. And once I do that, I can come back here to the handle and then make a duplicate of it. I'm going to create an array modifier, and then this time I wanted a -1 factor on X, so it moves the new one to the left of it. And then I can adjust the amount of the factor, just like so. And just like that, we've got a French door. Now, if I were to make this door to where it was functional, you see the handles rotate. I'd have done them independently. I'd have done an alias or something like that and just done them independently. But for a static thing here, we're not doing that. So now we're done with the model. We're going into materials, and the first thing I'm going to do are the wheels. And you're going to see this goes a little bit faster. And you're going to see all the things I was talking about in the video, which I feel like this video is more of a conversation than it was an actual modeling tutorial. But that's okay, because I like to think I covered some kind of important topics here, and why I did things the way I did them. But you're going to see that a lot of this is going to be black. You're not going to notice those. You're not going to notice the detail of that firebox up under it. You're not going to notice the holes by the vents. You're not going to notice a whole lot of stuff. You're not going to notice a little tray thing in the front that much. You'll see why we didn't need to put a lot of detail there. I'd already done the glass shader for the front door and for the pellet box or the hopper. So if you guys know how to do glass in Blender, it's pretty easy. Principal BDSF, turn transparency to 1, set your index of refraction to 1.53 or 50, either one of those. And turn your roughness down. You don't need to turn it down to 0. Turn it down to like maybe 0.002 or something like that. Something real small. That's pretty much pretty much got glass. It's not architecture glass. Architecture glass is a little bit more work, but regular old glass, transparent glass, that's all you gotta do. All right, so you see I'm putting different materials on here now. Go ahead and select this button. It's got more of a chrome finish look to it. It's like a plasticky chrome look. So I'm getting ready to make that. And because I'm in look dev mode, which is essentially Eevee, you don't really notice it. I mean, you can't really see it that much. So you see I'll look at it for a little bit longer than I probably should have, just to make sure it's being applied. You look at the shadow areas, you can see it's being applied. See, that top looks pure white. It's because it's reflecting off the light up above it. There's a point light up there. See it on the handle a little bit better. And this one here has it too, so wherever I have the same material, I just go into the selection of existing materials and I just copy it over. I'm just linking those materials to these different objects. That's what's happening in the background in Blender. The data transfer stuff is linking the data for that material to these particular objects. So I'm trying to go ahead and grab these hinges. And I could have made much nicer hinges, but like I said, you're not gonna see it, so all good. And aluminum too is a little bit flatter. It's a little bit flatter material. I'm gonna create a new material for this. I just want you to be able to see there's something there, but I don't want a ton of detail. I'm gonna take this same material here and put it on the door handles. Notice I crank the roughness up a little bit. The vents get the same material as the top. A bunch of black, you're not gonna see those holes. Now if you start popping light over there at it, you might see it hint up some holes, which would be like, oh wow, this looks more real. That's the only reason why we did that. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where like if you took a shot of this from the back, you might see the firebox. But in the case of our tutorial, only thing you'd have to do is put one of the existing black aluminum shaders on it. And the version of it you make, if you want to do that, then you're good to go. If you're following along and making this like I am, you want to leave it like that, that's good too. You want to make it purple, have at it. All good, however you want. All right, so this one I'm trying to put a texture on, or a perceived texture. The reason why I say perceived texture, because I'm going to use bump versus displacement to make it. Bump is like smoke and mirrors. It's like it's visual fakery of texture, like a texture height of like a bump or a cut or crease or something like that. It's doing it with like light tricks. It's not actual real geometry, whereas displacement is actually changing the geometry. I just didn't feel like I needed to do a displacement on this one. Bump should be good enough. And bump is a lot less processor intensive. So it basically bump you can see the changes update faster, and it renders much faster as well than displacement. Displacement is actually doing light bounces for every bit of geometry that goes up and goes down, like the rise and fall of geometry, like pits and valleys and that kind of thing. So. And then I'll take the color ramp and tweak it. I just need to add more black in there to get it looking that kind of grayish color. I'm just gonna ramp up the black. And now I can go back and crank down the roughness. And you'll see it looks more like a metallic texture. And keep in mind, we're in Eevee or Look Dev. It's gonna look a lot more. It's gonna look like it's a lot more than it really is. When we go to cycles, you'll see it's not that strong looking. All right, so now I'm gonna create the material for the little dampener up there, which is I'm gonna use that same material for the doors. Now, what I did is I brought in a material that I thought was the closest to it, which is the one we just made. Then I hit that little copy button that copied all of the settings from that one, and then but made another instance of it to where we can change it and it doesn't affect the previous one, if that makes sense. So it made a copy or a duplicate that we can change. And that's what we're doing here. So I changed the name of it, and it's gonna look a little bit different, but I want to bring over that bump texture and all that other stuff we had done, and the roughness values and all that stuff. So I hope that was a good explanation of what I did. I'm just trying to get the color right now. I'm just trying to get the color close as I can without killing myself over it. And the main reason why I left this in here instead of cutting this, because normally I would have cut this out of the video because it's just a bunch of, like you guys are watching paint dry at the moment. I just wanted to show you, like, sometimes like I'll get a color. It takes me a while to like dial it in. So if you're doing this and you feel like it's taking you too long, you see other people online, like they just magically know a color, they have a hex value. Either one, they found the color ahead of time, or two, they already modeled the thing and already had gone through all this process of going back and forth with colors. I just want to see you actually, I want to see you, I want you to see me, I should say, actually have to do that. Because realistically, this is how it is. So what I'm doing right here is I'm going back into the top where that little control point, control unit piece is. I'm selecting some faces, and I came in here, created a new material because I want it to be a little bit, I want it to be black plastic, but I want it to be a lot shinier than the rest of it. And as you see, this allowed me to do it. Now, if you look, some of it's missing, so I got to go back in here because sub D's on this, and I've got to go in here and select some more faces. So I got everything selected so it applies to enough of these faces to where I know I've got everything taken care of. And then I'll go into the material box there and then assign it to that second. I'll assign it to that second material there. So make sure I gotta get the bevels too, because there's bevels in here. And the reason why I left this in here as well is I wanted you guys to see this, because I have seen a lot of people have issues with this. Notice I'm just dragging and selecting, so I'm getting all those little bevel cuts. Because if you don't get them when that with sub D being applied and you go back into render mode, you will see some weird stuff happen. I'm just looking it over, make sure I got everything. And I'm just double checking to make sure I've got all my stuff straight. I went back in there a third time and grabbed a couple little things, but and if you have problems, you still can't quite get it. A lot of it is that a lot of the things is that because sub D is applied, it's pulling the material away from an edge a little bit. If you take a crease and crease that edge, a lot of times that'll suck it down and then bring it right to the edge of it. But after doing some tweaks offline, you can see this is now the finished product of this model with the materials on it. Not too bad, huh? I turn the HDRI off and make it transparent. I didn't put racks in it. I could have, but yeah, this just didn't bother to. But there's your smoker. Now what I want to do is I want to bring in a camera and set this thing up for rendering. So I select my camera, I go down, I want to change this out to 50mm focal length. That's going to make us a little bit wider aperture on the camera. And then I'm going to move the camera away from the object and all that. So we're done. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe, and make sure to come back for more. You guys have done a phenomenal job, and we are done. We are done with this one. But before we end, I want you to see the final version here. There's a final render that I did of that very same model. That's it. We're done. Have a good one. Love you guys. See you on the next one. Peace.